Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq, with daily insight on the Nasdaq-100 index, or the NDX, which is made up of 100 of the largest domestic and international non-financial innovative companies listed right here on the Nasdaq stock market. The NDX has been the barometer for U.S. large cap growth and also one of the best performing indexes over the last decade and a half, not to mention one of the most liquid index ecosystems in the world. Joining me this Wednesday afternoon, we have Ryan McCormack, factor and core equity strategist at Invesco, to discuss Nasdaq-100 weekly performance relative to the S&P 500 and, of course, Nvidia. Ryan, it's great to see you as always. Welcome back to Trade Talks.
Thanks, Jill. Great to be here.
All right, and let's talk about that weekly performance in the Nasdaq-100. A little bit less volatility than we've seen over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, a little bit, and nice to see some outperformance this past week with QQQ and QQQM up 3.35%. Relative to S&P 500 up 1.5% and S&P 500 value up 21 basis points. I mean, we're really getting this push and pull when it comes to inflation, right? I mean, whether it's a data point, whether it's commentary, I mean, it seems to really kind of set the stage for weekly performance here, at least over the past number of weeks that you and I had spoken. This past week, we heard from three different Fed officials kind of reiterating the same view that inflation in their eyes is likely to be transitory. We heard from Federal Reserve Governor Lael Brainerd, St. Louis Fed President James Bullard, and Atlanta Fed President Raphael Bostic, all of which they kind of reiterated the fact that they wouldn't really be surprised to continue to see these supply bottlenecks, supply shortages have an adverse impact on prices, particularly with pent-up customer demand that should probably be unleashed, but much of that should be temporary. So you had Bullard in an interview saying that we're going to see more inflation, kind of reiterating the fact that it's likely and expected from the Fed. You had Brainerd talking about kind of longer term inflation expectations, which in her opinion are well anchored. And then lastly, Bostic spoke at a virtual real estate economics event and alluded to, again, those supply side constraints, some of the base effects that you and I had spoken about, and said that there's reasons why we should be seeing higher price levels today, but really, what is the staying power of it? And again, to tie a bow on it, his overall takeaway was that it's likely to be transitory. So again, push and pull. We'll see what next week brings, but at least the commentary from these three officials seem to ease the inflation risk fears for now.
Right. If we take a look at sector performance over the week, starting to see some of the FANG names actually come back.
Yeah, I think you look at QQQ performance, and the three overweight sectors are generally the ones that drive that relative outperformance against the S&P 500 as measured by SPY. And this week was no different. You had tech up nearly 4.5%. You had communication services up nearly 4% at 3.78, and consumer discretionary up just over 2%. Beyond that, this kind of, again, to reference the push-pull of all of this, you look at sort of the value-driven sectors that QQQ doesn't have exposure to. You have energy down by nearly 3.5% for the week. Materials down 1.25%, and financials down 13 basis points. So, it was very clear that the growth trade was in vogue this past week, and investors kind of shunned value.
And let's wrap up with Nvidia here, Ryan. If we knew 10 years ago, we know about Nvidia now and just how its products would be practically applied. Can you imagine? I mean, that would have been a fantastic trade.
It really is, and I wanted to highlight Nvidia not only because it was the largest relative contributor to Q's outperformance this week, and not only because the shares were up 11.64% from the 18th through the 25th. It was kind of fueled by this 4-to-1 stock split, which is going to be effective in mid to late June. Something that we've seen, right, with Tesla, with Apple, even QQQM being offered at a lower NAV. In all of these cases, you have people referencing more accessibility to the retail investor. And in this case, Nvidia specifically referenced that retail or self-directed investor, as well as its employees, making that stock a little bit more affordable. You had some positive sentiment around the fact that they'll be reporting earnings after the close this afternoon. A month ago, the company noted that quarterly revenue was on track to exceed the forecast. So, you kind of have that built-in strength. And early indications of strength for the quarter mainly centered around cryptocurrency mining as well as gaming demand. But you have a number of analysts that are pointing to results in data centers, which may be key to the earnings report. But You've seen 9 consecutive quarters of earnings beats from Nvidia. You've seen 9 consecutive quarters of revenue beats by Nvidia, according to Bloomberg. And for this afternoon, estimates are $3 and around 31 cents in terms of EPS, 5.414 billion in revenue. But to go to your initial point, the longevity and the growth that we've seen in Nvidia has been remarkable. We talk so much about the QQQ heavyweights, the Apples, the Microsofts, the Amazons of the world for good reason. But Nvidia over the last 5 years has been the 7th largest contributor to QQQ. Over the past 3 years, also the 7th largest contributor. And as you look on the 1 year, the 6th largest contributor to QQQ overall performance. So, maybe a name that you don't hear as often as Apple and Amazon, but I think it's well on the way to be considered kind of in that same arena.
Might have to swap out the ends there, Ryan. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks, and thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.